Matthew chapter 11, verses 28 through 30 reads this way. Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. For the time that is ours, I'd like to preach you from the topic, Come to Jesus. Come to Jesus. Hear me. Beloved, we live in a world of normalized stress that is shaped by a cultural construct of anxiety, which simply means that we live lives so dominated by tension that many of us don't even recognize how our lifestyles are shaped by pressure and worry. There was once a time when children could go out and play by themselves or with a group of friends literally all day without any parental or adult supervision. I hearken back to a time when we would actually go outside because we were told to go outside and play, and our parents would say, "What? Don't come back until I call you." And when you came home, your parents seldom wanted to hear details about how you spent your day, or the conversation wouldn't go very far. Your parents would say, "Where did you go?" "Nowhere." "What did you do?" "Nothing." I, like many of you, can remember having a house key tied around my neck at 9 years old. I can still hear my late mother. "Now, when you come home, you can make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, have a glass of milk, and after you finish it, you start your homework. I'll check it when I get home." Let a parent give a 9-year-old a key today and see if family services won't remove that child from their home faster than you could blink. Kids today have little to no idea how even to play together without an adult supervising, directing, and leading whatever activity the kids want to do. Yet also, what parents and children live with today is an acute awareness of the proliferated presence of pedophiles in our midst and how that reality resides within the minds of our nation's communities as these depraved souls are ever more emboldened by the internet. Between sex offender notifications and the Epstein files, parents and children are definitely, understandably more fearful and anxious. Another factor that's feeding the beast of our stress and anxiety is the overscheduling that has consumed our lives. Within the context of our younger people, between youth sports, tutoring, music lessons, dance, theater, and all manner of child enrichment, our kids are busy. This youth enrichment also makes the lives of their parents and grandparents quite busy as well. Between drop-offs, pickups, practices, games, and recitals, the adults have quite a bit to do as well. The average parent or grandparent spends between 250 to 450 hours per year involved in service related to their child's activity. The hours, if calculated on a weekly basis, present as if the parent is working a part-time job. Speaking of which, most of these activities come with a hefty price tag. Travel soccer and AAU basketball can cost up to $10,000 a year. Ballet can run you $3,000 a year. Music lessons can cost you up to $4,500 a year. These economic realities have forced a number of parents and grandparents to take on second and third jobs to meet the cost of these things, which impinge on the time of our parents and grandparents, or these parental caretakers, if you will. And what of those parents who cannot even afford extracurricular activities for their children? What about those parents who are simply trying to keep the lights on, keep food in the refrigerator, keep gas in their car, money for a monthly bus pass, and their family off the street? This is the reality for far too many Americans, whether they have children or not. Right now, over 80% of Americans report having serious stress and anxiety related to finances and affordability. Couple this with the soon-to-come changes brought on by Trump's so-called big, beautiful bill, and things, as God told Habakkuk, are going to go from bad to worse. With $1 trillion in cuts, which will intensify in January of 2027, close to 20 million Americans will have reduced access to food and health care, placing even more of a strain on already stretched family budgets. Lastly, saints, we are called to live in a changing world that in many ways remains unchanged. The reality of illegal and unjust wars have once again become a reality for us, as 18 Americans have been confirmed dead, and our deceptive criminal Department of Defense has been less than forthcoming about the injured, a number that some in the global media put in the high hundreds. Not to mention our despotic president's planned escalation, which means for those of us who have friends and family in the military, our anxiety takes on a far more personal note. The Iraq War, saints, lasted 9 years, and that was initiated under false pretenses. We occupied Afghanistan for 20 years, leaving only in 2021. Now we are once again in the Middle East fighting a war that many military and global security experts identify as an unwinnable war. We have money for bombs, saints, but not medicine. We have money for bombs, saints, but not food. We have money to build bombs, but not affordable housing. We have money for bombs, but no money to alleviate student loan debt. Different wars, same impact on the American people. Had we had voted differently, we would have more affordable housing and we wouldn't be in a forever war. Thus, a changing world that remains unchanged. We also find in this changing world that remains unchanged the very pronounced and active necrology of Black people who continue to flood the screens of our smartphones and tablets, our news feeds, and our social media platforms. In 2026, Black people are still being murdered for no other reason than the color of their skin. We are faced with the unrelenting challenge of processing the continued tide of Black death due to racism in a nation that has more sympathy and structural protection for the killers or the suspects rather than the people they have murdered. Whether it's Taja Fortune, DeMartravion Reed, Juliana Nitza, or Nolan Xavier Wells, they are sadly a continuation of the strange fruit awaiting the harvest of justice. Whether we lean into the truth of Dr. Stacey Patton's recent Substack essay titled "Black People Don't Hang Themselves from Trees," or wrestle with the tension presented by Patton and wonder out loud, how do black parents send their child to college, on vacation, across the street, as they are forced to tread water in a sea of uncertainty as to what may happen to them in a time and space where their lives do not matter to far too many people? Not that they ever have. Yet we find ourselves in this space of oppressive anxiety that is brought on by a litany of factors, what therapists might call stressors or triggers. And the question for the believer in Jesus Christ is, how do we deal with, how do we cope with, how do we overcome these issues of living in this present age? For that answer, we have to look to the words of the Redeemer from Nazareth, who cried from on high, "Come to me, all you who are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest." He says, "Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and your burden is light." And my burden is light. I'm sorry. Jesus is ministering, saints, in a context and to a people who, like us, know struggle. He is ministering in a context who, like us, know oppression. The Roman Empire controlled Judea, and they ruled it with an iron fist. Overt violence was the normal method of control. One, because Rome believed in it as an effective means of administration. And two, the people of Judea often respond to Roman oppression with violence. So the two fed off of one another, creating a very tense, oppressive living situation for the Judean people. Combine this with the fact that well over 80% of the Judean people lived in abject poverty. In our common wordplay today, we use words like food insecure, uninsured, and affordability. But the truth remains that these descriptors speak to a very dire reality for many in our nation, and the fact that some of us are drawing ever closer to dancing with the demon of debt, especially when it comes as a direct result of policies designed to enrich the wealthy and excoriate the poor and working classes. Whether such policies emanate from Rome or from Washington, that level of sanctioned, depraved violence emanates from the bowels of hell and puts those purveyors of such policies in league with the devil. Whether that person be Tiberius in Rome or Trump in Washington. Thus, it is something that we share with the people of Judea. And the call from Jesus then is the call for his beloved now. "Come to me, all you that are weary and are carrying heavy burdens, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart. And you will find rest for your souls, for my yoke is easy and my burden is light." Yet the problem for so many of us rests in the first word of this text. Come. Jesus knew the pain of the people he was crying out to. Jesus, the one who came down from 40 and 2 generations, who knew creation before it was created, understood the brokenness of their inherent nature due to sin. He was in the garden with Adam and Eve. He knew the serpent and all of his deceptive ways. He could smell the aroma of the fruit when Adam and Eve shared it. He was with God as he walked in the cool of the day in the garden. God's question to Adam was formed within him as well. Who told you that you were naked? The one who knew no sin but became sin so that we may may become the righteousness of God, has had for all eternity an understanding of what ails the soul of humanity. He was there when Cain slew Abel. He could not only hear the cry of his blood, but he allowed his nostrils to be filled with the metallic coppery scent of the libation that now saturated the ground. Jesus knows the sin that resides within us all, the sin that complicates, undermines, frustrates, and destroys the best of all of our efforts. Yet the enemy within us has convinced people for millennia that they don't need Jesus, whether you are saved or unsaved. I know I'm right about it, because the dirty truth of the church is that you can be saved and actually believe that you don't need Jesus. We can participate in the church service. We can sing the hymns and the praise and worship songs, know the articles of faith, know the topic of each responsive reading just by the number, and basically have the rhythm of the church down to a routine and not realize that all that means nothing in the presence of a holy God, because we have submitted to the ritual of the church service. But we have substituted that ritual for relationship. So when we walk out after the benediction, whatever you are encountering in your life, Jesus has no part in, because you have centered yourself and not Christ, because you have reasoned within yourself that you don't need Jesus. Don't believe me? For the next week, ask God to make you aware of how many I statements you use in a day. Then meditate on how many of those I statements would have been possible without God. You see, beloved, there's a difference between coming to church and coming to Christ fully, with our whole selves. And the truth of us not coming to Christ is that life is all good until it's not. It's all good as long as we have a job. It's all good as long as we're healthy. It's all good as long as our spouse is healthy. It's all good as long as our parents are healthy. It's all good as long as our children are healthy. It's all good as long as the money is flowing. It's all good as long as everyone tells us how great we are. It's all good as long as the car is running. It's all good as long as we can floss. It's all good until it's not. Until we're faced with having to go beyond the routine of church. Having to go beyond the routine of our daily lives. It's all good when we don't have to think about Jesus after the benediction. Or we don't allow ourselves to think about Jesus because, we're like, I got it, God, I'm good. But when you get sick, when your spouse gets sick, when your child gets sick, when you lose your child, when you lose your wife, when you lose your husband, when you lose your mama, when you lose your daddy, things get real. And that's why Jesus, as he cried to the people of Judea, is crying to those of us who sit Sunday after Sunday and remain unchanged. When we come to church, where we sit Sunday after Sunday and pridefully say, I shall not be moved. When we sit Sunday after Sunday and think that we got it because we've been doing the same thing year after year after year, and there's no growth, no change, no transformation. But we sit Sunday after Sunday and we haven't come to Christ. We haven't come to Jesus with our full selves. We haven't yielded to Christ. We haven't submitted ourselves to the work of sanctification, to that work of being made whole, because we're so prideful, we're so arrogant. And we have not been transformed, we have not been changed, because we haven't come. We come to church, but we haven't come to Christ. We come to our ministry meetings, but we haven't come to Christ. We come to our fellowship services and our annual days and our church programs where we honor ourselves, where we raise money, but we don't give money for missions. We don't feed the homeless. We don't take the gospel beyond the four walls of the church. We come to church, but we don't bring church. We don't bring the gospel out into the world because we haven't come to Christ. We've been coming to church, but we haven't come to Jesus for 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years. And here we are, wondering why churches are empty. Wondering why it's a crisis when a pastor goes to glory. Wondering why the church, the body of Christ, remains stuck. We're stuck because we have not yielded ourselves to the true work of Christ. We haven't come to Jesus. And Jesus cried out, "Come to me, all of you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest." Christ is calling for us to come. But will we come to Christ? Will we yield to Christ? Will we give up our agendas and come? Will we give up our plans and come? Will we replace our ideas for ministry with Christ's idea for ministry? Will we stop centering ourselves, and will we stop crowding God out? And will we simply answer the call of Christ and just come with a contrite spirit, with an open heart, ready to be truly used by Christ? Not our will, but His will be done. May God bless you and keep you. Amen.